Hey everybody, just trying to get it while it's hot. Haven't really been able to have time to get on my computer, so we're doing another car video. So what I wanted to talk about today is how the things that happened between, I didn't even look up her name, the McDonald's worker, I'll put her name in the title, and what happened with Luigi Mangione. These are, as American capitalism begins to break down and destroy people's mental health and well-being, especially under this administration and probably ones in the future, if they don't offer real socioeconomic change and real policies that help people, you're going to see common occurrences of people trying to unalive bosses, unalive CEOs, unalive, anybody that they feel is contributing to their oppression, because whether it's a systemic, consistent political philosophy or if it's just random acts of violence. So I think it was about a week or so ago, and this is a tragedy. So I'm speaking of this because I want to break down the causes of tragedies like this in our culture, rather than just saying ooga booga booga, we're going to destroy more criminals for committing a crime. I think what's going on in American society is much more complex than people just simply being criminals or people that want to unalive people. So with that said, heart goes out to this lady, and especially her 6 children. She should still be here with us, and those children shouldn't have to go into the next 40 or 50 years or so of their life, or however long they live, without their mom. This is a tragedy caused by the system we live under. And this reminds me of a quote from a song that recently came up by the Dropkick Murphys. The working people fuel the engine while you yank the chain. So we are living in a society of increased inequality, economic inequality. And that's even for people that work for a living. I'm lucky enough to have a job with a nice union, a wonderful steward, and sort of accountability from the HR office all the way up to the higher ups and stuff, where if I feel like I'm being mistreated, I feel though at my job, and specifically, and I'm sure other unionized people, like, people that are in the Teamsters or UAW here in Detroit, can also, go to somebody if they feel as though they're being mistreated. But guess who usually doesn't get that luxury? It's customer service workers. The workers that are in our restaurants, the workers that are in our bars, the workers that work the front desk at everywhere from insurance agencies all the way to doctor's offices don't get the quality of workplace protection that unionized labor workers get, which is sad, because whether people know it or not, the majority of America's economy is service workers. And I feel as though with what's happening in our society, a lot of people are one unproductive day away from doing a Luigi or doing another, as they call it, a Mac murder, or Mac murder, however you want to put it. So, and what I'm getting at is that I feel as though tragedies like this are continuing to happen, not just because, and it's like we can break it down and we can compare America to, like Sweden, Denmark, and other places, right? These places have free healthcare. These places have guaranteed paid time off, 3-4 months of paid time off, especially if you are someone who has a child, right? I believe they even give their fathers, paid time off. Stupid dog. But yeah, they give even their fathers and men get lots of paid time off to be with their wives or whoever, and their partners and their child. In America does not offer not only lack of workplace protections in these workplaces, they don't offer anything to help people through tragic and hard times. And that's one thing I want to hit on also. And I'm not saying it as if I knew this lady, because she was a mother of 6 children, but I don't want to speak bad on her. But we all have had experiences where we've seen supervisors and managers misbehaving and talking to people any kind of way. And a lot of these places, especially customer service industry businesses, such as McDonald's, Burger King, Starbucks, or whatever, there's no accountability. Some of these people don't need to be in these positions, but there's no one around to hold them to account because they have no union and there's no specific laws in place to describe how people should and shouldn't be treating employees. There's many people who are supervising and managing in these businesses who have, cursed people out, questions people's sexuality, talks about, how people look or smell. And then if it's somebody new who's trying to learn a job, they talk about them like they're dirt. And there's no accountability held by these people that are, I say a lot, I know, that are participating in this awful behavior. And this behavior leads to people's mental health deteriorating more and more. They already get paid like dirt. Society, literally treats them like dirt. There's a whole meme going around about how a lot of so-called Christians will go to church. They will go, praise the Lord and what have you, praise the Lord in any way or whatever. And then when they go to a customer service worker after they get out of church, they will treat the waiter or waitress like dog shit, like dirt, like they don't matter. And that what's more, and then we have an entire thing where we talk about not tipping people for their labor, knowing that these people get a huge cut out of their check when they are providing these foods and other services for you. And this is leading to more and more people getting desperate and leading to acts of violence. And I also want to speak about violence, because a lot of people see the most egregious act of violence, such as the murder done by this young woman in Luigi. And we just see it as, and obviously it is, there are egregious acts of violence that shouldn't happen, and there's no real excuse for them. But we also ignore the parts of violence that corporate overlords and business owners and managers that participate in being a class trader partake in, such as, because firing someone or cutting someone's hours might seem mundane and innocent, like it doesn't really affect nobody's life. So it's putting people in debt and have them pay tons and tons of bills and stuff. This is why a lot of people would, even when it comes to debt, unalive themselves. We don't see those actions as acts of violence. Making sure people are behind on their car note, making sure people can't pay their electric bill, making sure people can't buy formula for their kids, making sure people can't even keep a roof over their head, because, and this, don't get me wrong, there's reasons, actual good reasons to fire people. But there is also times and reasons why people get fired or get their hours cut for unreasonable, for no reason. And then these people are forced to bear the consequences of a biased employer or a biased manager with no social safety net to help them through the hard times. So we think, again, so much as, murder and robbery, which they are acts of violence, but we don't think about social murder and the implications of cutting someone hours, mistreating them at work, and firing somebody, and how this leads to the abject violence of poverty. So with that said, I think I have gotten everything off of my head that I want to say. And I also want to specifically talk about this one young woman because she was in a social circle. I don't know this woman, but apparently she knew some people I know. And she was adjacent to a lot of the same culture. I looked at this lady's Instagram, and she seemed like a golf and alternatives girl. She did not seem like someone that's a hardened criminal. And we have all these people like the dumbasses at Law and Crime Network talking about her priors and stuff, but they're not digging into the situations to see what type of mental health struggles that this young woman was dealing with before this tragedy happened. And the same can be said for Luigi and many other people. I've also seen a increase, if you will, because I've literally watched body cam footage of some young white boy who is working, or young white man, we say man, who was working at a hotel as a concierge for the front desk. They fired him, and he returned with a firearm, trying to force them to rehire him and keep their jobs. There's been so many videos of this, because again, we don't understand the implications of what happens when we fire somebody. While I do believe that businesses should reserve the right to terminate employees at will, especially when employees are not doing their job, have poor attendance, and are not, doing what they're supposed to do. But what I don't believe in is what we have now is a world where we have capitalism, if you that's the blame for it, where if you feel that they feel that you're broken and they don't need you anymore. And this is leading to more and more tragedy. We need to make a system where if somebody is unemployed, it's easy to get unemployment. We need to make a system so people can keep their housing for a few months when they lose their job. We need to make a system where people can feed themselves if they're unemployed. Because if we maintain a system, especially looking at what happened after who was elected last and the big beautiful bill and all the cuts done there, and a trash about no tax on tips, and a trash about, oh, quote, no tax in overtimes, but you got to refile later, and you might not get if you don't work a lot of overtime. So to close this out, to say, if we don't reform the system to make it so workers' lives are easier, we're going to continue to see these tragedies done by this young woman, Luigi, and others, as mentioned on the body cam footage, where they go back to their workplace and they literally think that they have to fight physically to get their jobs back. And this has been James, otherwise known as the Skate Punk Lefty, with another video. Let me know what you think at the bottom.